What's your name and where you're from?
My name is Hope. I am from the UK and I'm from South Africa.
What would you say like your nationality is?
I have dual citizenship, so I am both British and South African, but I classify myself more South African than British.
My name is Uyi. I'm from the UK as well. I'm Nigerian by descent. I would classify myself as Black British.
I'm from the States, Washington, and I've been here for 6 weeks now.
So I actually just got to South Korea 2 days ago. Yeah, and I'm from South Central Los Angeles.
I'm from Democratic Republic of Congo in Africa, Central Africa, and I've been in Korea for 12 years now.
I am from Mozambique and I've been in South Korea for 2 years.
How has your experience living in Korea been so far?
Quite enjoyable. I've enjoyed myself a lot. There'll be random moments where people might stare, but sometimes if you just smile at people, they smile back and they're nice. And sometimes they're not, but overall, nice experience.
But then why did you just smile at people like on the street?
Helps make me feel less uncomfortable, and instead of assuming, because I am different, so people are gonna be like, oh, what's that? But that doesn't mean it's hate. So instead of assuming someone doesn't like me, just smile. And some people will like start conversation with you, ask you more about yourself. So I think it's just nicer to be nice and see what people give back. And if they end up judging you, then move on. But if they're nice, then enjoy the moment.
I think that overall they're really lovely people. Like in terms of customer service and things like that, it doesn't really matter who you are. They kind of just do what, you ask them and they're ready to help and things like that. I'm not going to say that there's not been some uncomfortable times, but I think that there are uncomfortable people in the UK as well. Overall, I think they're quite lovely people and it's been a really good experience. So yeah.
My experience has been very positive. I go to Hanyang University, so I study Korean there, and it's mostly positive. I've never had anyone discriminate against me or everyone is nice here. I got lost in the subway a few times and people were genuinely nice and they helped me a lot.
And you just made mention that you go to Hanyang University. Like that's one of the top universities in Korea. How did you get in?
So I just graduated high school. So I got a scholarship to go study Korean in Hanyang University for 7 weeks. So that's how I'm in Hanyang right now. It's not that I'm smart or anything.
It's not bad actually. It's been pretty awesome. I normally go to Asia every single year, but since the pandemic happened, I haven't been to Asia in about 2.5 years. But normally I go to Japan, and I've been going to Japan for the past 6 years. But I've been to Taiwan, I've been to Hong Kong. After this, I'm going to Thailand. I love being out in Asia. Yeah.
Why do you like being out in Asia?
I think it has something different to offer. I think that there's new types of experiences. Korea, for example, I love the fandom. I love the passion when it comes to food, when it comes to culture, also when it comes to art. And that attracts me a ton.
What do you do for a living in Korea?
I'm an engineer in AI domain. Yeah. So,
What's it like, being a black person in Korea?
well, there sure are many challenges, and it depends on where you come from. So, because I came here when I was in my early 20s, and I kind of it was my first experience in another country, and I kind of had time to adjust and get used to live here. So for me, it's kind of smooth, but for most of people, they are more sensitive about many cultural differences or many other things like the stirrings or those things. It's difficult to adapt. I think because I came in a quite of young stage of my life, I had time to adjust with the culture. But I think if you have already a lot of cultural baggages, it can be very difficult. Yeah.
Okay, so I think people are more likely to acknowledge that I'm British and are more excited that I'm British. So yeah, people are more like, let me practice English with you. You have a British accent. So they're more interested in the fact that I'm British than being black. So
I don't know if they see me as British. I think they see me as black because most of the time I literally look at me. But and also because of my hair, I definitely do feel very much black because maybe they want to touch my hair or they want to talk about my hair or they're talking about my hair because they think I can't understand what they're saying, even though I understand a little bit of Korean these days. But yeah, like I think being a black person, I think is safer than the UK. Honestly, it's not that bad. Obviously, they're gonna stare because it's a homogenous society. They don't really see us on an everyday basis. But yeah, it's not bad. It's not bad. I don't think it is.
I mean, personally, I haven't experienced any type of racism directly. Like until now, I'm fine. I'm doing fine. Yeah, yeah.
I've been very positive. Like, there are times where people stare and like, some Ajuma touched my hair, like who was sitting next to me in the train. But like, I was like, it's okay. Like, it might not be comfortable, but that's fine. But like, I don't know why, but my experience been like very positive. No one has ever like discriminated against me or anything. And I also live with like host family, so they're also like extra nice. And like some people also like complimented my hair sometimes. My experience has been like very positive.
So I've been coming to Asia for the past like 7 years, and compared to Los Angeles, compared to America, I haven't experienced the same type of racism or prejudice. I've actually been very welcomed in Asia. Starting off in Japan, that was the first country I've been to in Asia, and I was welcome. I've met tons of people, tons of friends who've who welcome me open arms. And of course, there's always those awkward moments where you catch someone like staring at you, or if you try to hail a taxi, they'll just drive right by you. And to be honest, I experienced that more in America, and I experience more racism in America than I do in Asia.
Earlier on, you made mention as to like, they would like to touch your hair. How would you feel about them touching your hair? Like, take for instance, take like permission. Like, would you allow them to touch your hair?
I have allowed it. You know, it's a bit of a mixed feeling. I'm not really angry. It's a bit strange sometimes because sometimes they don't ask me. They're just like, oh, your hair's really nice. It's like, okay, we're in a pandemic. But overall, I do understand that they're just curious because they've never seen something like that before. And I do understand the other people that I've heard say that they don't want people to touch them. It's just a personal space, personal option. So I get it. But I don't really mind so long as they ask for permission and stuff. It's okay.
And how would you say, like your dating experience has been so far as a person of color in Korea?
No, I think it's similar like to when I was back home. I don't know because I mostly used online stuff rather than like direct. But I think for a person of color, I've seen so many couple in the street working, so I think it's not that difficult for at least black men. For black women, I also. Well, that is another subject because I think nowadays it's changing. But first, when I came in Korea, it was more common to see a foreigner man with a Korean girl than seeing a Korean guy with a foreigner girl, which is changing kind of nowadays, like compared to 10 years ago. Yeah. So I think for a black woman, it can still kind of tricky because I think from my experience, Korean men are not as much open as Korean women. So yeah, I think like that.
Since I came, I would say let me tell you this. I don't have a problem with girls. I haven't had a problem. So
you're a fine-looking man.
Yes. So I'm honestly I'm in a relationship right now. I've been before. So I mean, I don't have a problem with girls.
I think some certain people are going to be more likely to date foreigners, but I feel like if they are dating foreigners, they're more likely to lean to white than black. So there is a very rare few people who are likely to lean towards dating black people. But I think overall, people usually just stick to their own.
Based on your personal, like opinion, why do you think they actually lean more into dating, like white Western people?
Because of like colonization and everything. So it is very much like white beauty is the standard for everyone. So it's like they are white, so they meet the standards more than everyone else. And I feel like even though they are likely to date like more white people, it's still sometimes it can be more of a fetishization than actually just dating someone because they just happen to be white. But sometimes you're just purposely dating someone because they're a different race.
I think that the language barrier is always a big factor into that anyway. And then there's also like the societal pressure. I think that a lot of Koreans, from my understanding of what other people have told me, is that a lot of the Korean parents would rather their children stay with Korean people in general. So regardless of being black or white or anything, they'd rather they were Korean. And then on top of that, black people are so far, it's so different, you know, that it's almost like, that's almost a no-go area. So I think a lot of young people that even may be interested in dating black people, they feel that kind of pressure to not do that. And then there's also the fetishization part. So we don't know if they're interested in us based on this or based on that. It could be said for both sides, honestly. So yeah, I think they are more open, but I do think that for black women, it's a little bit more difficult, but it's always been, so yeah.
한국어 공부한 계기가 언제쯤이었어요?
아, 저는 원래 태권도 좋아했었고 그래서 그냥 뭔가 처음에는 한국 그 드라마 보기 시작했고 그리고 한국 예능 보다가 그냥 너무 멋있다고 생각해서 한국어를 배우기 시작했어요.
Have you, like faced any type of racism or discrimination while living in Korea?
I'm trying to think, but I think the answer is going to be more of a no than a yes. More like the yes will be if I'm walking and like people are just staring at me and then they'll go to their friend like, oh, my name is a black person, and they're just looking at me like, so then I'm like, okay, avoid these people. But no one's ever like came to me and like said anything that was racist. All I've had more than anything else is stares, and people are more likely, like my hair, when I took them out, my braids, people were like, oh wow, your hair's so beautiful. So people have been more nice than anything else.
It's more indirect, like kind of what she's, it's indirect. No one's come up to me and said, oh, you know, you, and then insulted me, but I think maybe the moving away in the trains, like moving away or not sitting down. Obviously, sometimes they're just not sitting down because they're not sitting down. I know it's not, so I know that. But there are other times where it's clear that they don't want to be around us. Do you remember? We went to the cinema. Yes, we went to the cinema. And then when we left, we got into, there was an elevator going down. So there was a woman already in there. We went in. We didn't really say anything. She came out and she stood and waited for the next one. But she was going down because we saw, so it was quite weird because it was a really big elevator and we were the only people in it, the three of us. And I was like, oh, okay. So I'm not saying she's racist, but I don't see why else she would have left if not because she was uncomfortable. So it's things like that overall, but not like, direct, really just, so that's the experience.
주로 한국 사람들 만났을 때 본인한테 어떤 뭐 질문이라든가 아니면 어떤 느낌이 아니면 어떤 질문이 주로 물어봤던 것 같아요.
한국인들은 저한테 딱 봤을 때는 와, 이분이 혹시 미국 분이신가요? 네, 미국 분이 있는지 아니면 어떤 유럽이나 그런 they think like I came from those 그런 생각을 하는데 저 100% 아프리카 사람이에요.
저도 아프리카 사람입니다.
저 아프리카 사람인데 스타일이랑 입는 곳을 딱 보시면은 그 미국 사람이랑 이렇게 딱 생각을 한다고